All right. Come on in. 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 Let's talk about it. Happy Friday to everybody. We have a special guest. We got a regular jaywalk here, but we got a special guest. I don't even think it's a crime to even say he's a USC legend. I'm calling him a USC legend. We have a big time safety, Darnell Bing. Man, how you doing, man?
I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed. Wonderful. All is well. I'm happy to be here with you, good brothers, man. And just to be able to be on your platform and share this time with you, I'm grateful for it.
Well, we definitely appreciate you coming on. Big J, what's the word?
Man. I'm this is a really I'm gonna just say it like this. I love this man. I love Darnell. Man, Darnell is just one of the most genuine, solid brothers you can ever imagine. I'm so grateful to have had these years of fellowship with you, man, and honored to talk with you this morning.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Let me shout out Keith Biggers. You guys know he played 1984. Keith, I got it right. But this is Keith, man. Big shout out to Keith. And I might put the link in here in a second. But big shout out to Keith. But we want to get into Darnell Bing. We wanted to get into Jaywalk. There's a couple things, man. You guys know, man, like the fan base. I always say, man, use the term lost in the sauce because we have been lost in the sauce trying to recap the Pete Carroll days, man. And some of the players that made up the Pete Carroll days was guys like Darnell Bing, man. And I want to know as far as what you think, Darnell, what we need to do to get back there. And we'll talk about some of the things as well. We want to look at some of these highlights, but what do you think, man, as far as the USC family, man, as how we need to get back there and what do we need to do recruiting wise?
I mean, what comes to mind for me is the saying that they used to say back in the day, often imitated, never duplicated. So with that, I see what we've been trying to do over the last few years in regards to trying to rebuild the Pete Carroll legacy. But I ain't going to say it can't happen, but we can't try to do it in the fashion that it was done in Pete Carroll's fashion. We need to bring in somebody that's going to bring their own style, their own uniqueness, and get back to recruiting dogs, And
yeah,
I think we haven't had that because I felt like everybody's been trying to beat Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll's he's a unique individual, man. And I don't know if you'll find many folks out there that is like Pete Carroll. So to try to be someone that you're not, I think that's what has been causing us to have this downfall that we've had over the last few years. But I'm hoping that, Lincoln, he showed some good stuff, somewhat good stuff over the last few years. I'm excited for what we have this year. I had a chance to go to the spring game a few weeks ago, and I was chopping it up with Mike Williams, and, he seemed very excited about one of the running backs that we just got from Florida. I don't know if
man,
that.
He's a beast.
He's nice.
Yeah. Then, he said we still got one or two of the receivers from last year that was dogs. So, I will say this part. I didn't watch much of what was happening in that practice because I was too busy fellowshipping with my guys because I haven't seen a lot of the cats there in some time. But at the end of practice is when it got exciting.
Yeah.
They had their hidden drills, and all you can hear is people smacking each other. And for me, as a defensive guy, it sounded good and it felt good to hear pads hitting because I don't think I've seen a lot of hitting happen in the last few years. But it sounded good and it felt good to see and hear all the smacking and people actually getting excited. Like it was great to see the players get excited about people hitting. And I can't say that it has always been that over the last few years. I felt like I watched a few games and everybody just be on the sideline like, But when they were hitting, it was live, and I appreciated that.
Absolutely. Big J.
Man, I can echo that. So I wasn't able to make it, and so I think what Darnell was referring to, we didn't have a spring game this year, but there was a special practice that was dedicated to just alumni, and unfortunately I was unavailable that day. But I spoke to a couple of the fellas that were there, and I got a bunch of mixed perspectives because each person I spoke to had played a different position, so that makes sense. But there were some great reports of some of the up and coming younger guys doing their thing, and I think what Darnell is referring to is getting the energy back. That, like, one thing that we thrived on at USC, our mission was competition.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was competitive. Everything, like who could tie their shoes the fastest. Everything was a competition. Who could eat the most calories? Everything was and Coach Carroll, he just embodied it. He was the living, walking personification of competition. Literally, his name was compete. COMPETE. And that's just who he was. That was the mantra. And so everybody said it's feeling like the competition is back infused in the DNA of the building. And so that is where I start to get really excited, because I know that iron sharpens iron, as we all know. Mm-hmm. And it looks like we're trending in the direction that we want to. And my last point is, I will echo what Darnell says. There will never be another Pete Carroll generation. Like, we're here. We're still here. So you can't be us because we're still here. But be you. Be your version of what this next legacy is going to be, so that as Darnell and Jay, you and I, as we grow up, we could say that this generation is the glory days again, right? They keep talking about what we were able to accomplish while Darnell and I were there, but it's old, it's antiquated. We're ready to see this next generation give us something to scream and holler about.
Absolutely. I want to, and there's so many different aspects too. When you're talking about now, like we got NIL that they're dealing with. We got this transfer portal that's absolutely, it's insane. And, we had guys like Lofa Tatupu that came from the transfer portal, came from Maine, but now it's like, it's over the top to a point to where it's like, Jay, you alluded to it, man. You said you had to compete. You wasn't getting, I guess you weren't starting like you just wanted to start, but you stayed and you stuck it out and you did what you had to do. Can you guys talk about that, what the competition did and how it built you guys the character that you guys were able to develop, in your era?
Darnell?
Yeah, man. If I can be 100% honest with y'all, I think I love competing more than I actually love the game of football. And for me, that was just part of my DNA. I grew up with two older brothers. So everything I did, I tried to do better than them. So that transition to football for me. And, when we got to SC, it was already engulfed in the culture in regards to competition. So it just felt great to be amongst other individuals that appreciated the fact that good competition is healthy competition. And I think that was part of the reason why we were able to do the things that we were doing, because of the fact that everybody understood that any given day can be your time. And I share that because I remember it was the 05 season. There was 1 week we were getting ready to play BYU, and apparently I wasn't competing to the best of my abilities, is what it was brought to my attention. And I actually didn't play the first half of the BYU game because of the fact that I was slacking. And that just goes to, Pete's whole mantra in regards to competing. If you wasn't going to be doing your part, you're going to have to sit down and watch the other person behind you do their part. And I hated it at the time, but I later on respected it because I realized what it was. It wasn't about me just having to perform for myself. Me not performing in practice was doing a disservice to my players in regards to helping them get to the best of their abilities during that week. So, you got to respect the competition. It brings out greatness within yourself, and it brings out greatness within your teammates. But not only that, the end of the day, all that stuff that you learn from competing and being with your brothers in the gridiron, you're able to transition all that stuff to real life stuff. And a lot of that stuff they probably don't understand right now,
Right.
but it'll carry over. And I pray and hope that they'll continue that competition that's going on right now as they move forward.
I agree, man. That couldn't have been stated better, Darnell. There's something that you, Darnell, don't even know that at the time I wasn't mature enough to even conceptualize it or to discuss it with you. But the fact of the matter is like there was so much. It's a mixed dichotomy of emotions when you're playing at USC at the time that we played, because before Darnell committed to SC, I knew who he was. When he was a sophomore and a junior, I ran track against him and he didn't know it. I mean, we actually ran a relay against Long Beach Poly at the LA Sports Arena, and this dude was running first leg. Hey, how is this big old dude? I mean, like, he was a beast and he opened, right? So I knew who he was far before I ever knew who he was. You know what I'm saying? But then fast forward, and Darnell, this is a true story. Coach Carroll, at the time, I was starting at safety before Darnell because he wasn't there. So on the depth chart, I was above him, right? This is theoretically. So Coach Carroll says, he called me Johnny. Johnny, I want you to look at something. So I came into his office and he showed me highlights of Darnell Bing. And he said, what do you think?
Wow.
He said, what do you think? And I said, he's a linebacker. He's huge. And he said, no, this is the best free safety in the nation coming out of high school. And we think he's going to be a Trojan. And I said, okay. And he said, you know, that's the same position you play. I said, okay. Yeah, I get that. He said, if he commits, and when he does commit, because we believe he will, we want you to take care of him. He said, show him what you've learned, teach him about the culture here. And he says, you make sure he knows he belongs here. And I said, yes, coach. So then fast forward, he committed along with Herschel and, you know, Winston. And we had a bunch of guys from Poly come in, Manny. And then the highlight tape came and Coach Carroll set the whole team down and said, these are the freshmen coming in this year. And he showed us highlights of all of these guys. And then I see Darnell Bing from Long Beach Poly. And I'm like, okay, that's the kid I'm supposed to look after when he gets here. The highlights were just so beautiful because he was playing running back and safety. And I was like, oh, this guy's, he's a legend. Like, he's a beast. And Coach Carroll said it very clearly. He says, I'm going to give all of these guys as many reps as I can to take your jobs. And he said it just like that in front of the whole meeting. And we all just kind of looked at each other like, that's what time we on right now. He's like, they're getting every rep. They're getting every rep to prove themselves. Reggie Bush, all of them were in that class. Lindell White, everybody. Steve Smith. And he's showing us all these highlights. So then Darnell gets in. Whenever he got in, I think around spring. And I think I was still starting at safety for the first week maybe. But by that second week, I definitively knew. I sat down with the defensive backs. I sat down with Rocky Seto. I sat down with Coach Carroll. And Coach Carroll looked me dead in the eye and was like, Johnny, we think we're going to move you to corner. I said, yeah, all right, that's cool. Darnell's amazing. I said, Coach, he's definitely amazing. And that's just how it was. When I say zero animosity, no hard feelings, I knew that was the best for our team. I knew that he was the best fit for that, what we needed, because we had Jason Leach. Troy was, he was on his way out. And it was just, you knew Darnell was up next, right? And he always carried it well. So that's what I'm trying to talk to you guys about, you young generation, those of you who are listening. You got to love the whole more than you just love your individual pursuits, because you can always go further together. And Darnell and I have always been very close, very honest, very open with each other. But real recognize real. That's an All-American free safety. I put him in the same conversation as Ronnie Lott.
Oh man, come on.
Absolutely.
Stop it, Darnell. Stop it. Listen to me. Okay, how many All-Americans did Ronnie Lott have at USC? Let's talk about that. Darnell, are you a 2-time All-American?
Yes.
Okay, how many times was Ronnie Lott an All-American at USC? Right.
He don't want to touch that.
Right. And I love Ronnie.
Ronnie Lott was an All-American when he was there, and he's an All-American now. So
he is, absolutely. And
I can never put myself in that man's in the same conversation as that man.
And
it's funny you mentioned
and that's why I did it for you, and because that's how I view you, is what I'm saying, and that is the truth. So I'm gonna say this.
Go ahead. A lot of Trojan fans, when you talk about some of the best safeties to come to USC, you in the top 5. I mean, hands down. I mean, that's not even really a discussion. Really, it's the top 5, and we'll talk about that. This one reason when you're top 5. Let's look at it. It's this right here. Hold on.
Number 20 makes the first.
We'll show you exactly why.
This is his freshman year.
Now has to scamper to his right, in and out, intercepted.
Who came off?
By the freshman Darnell Bing.
That was
number 20 makes
year.
the first.
Can you talk about that game real quick? And we'll look at some other stuff, but that's one of the games. You true freshmen coming in, going to the SEC country, one of the most hostile environments. J-Walk talked about that environment. Yeah. What was it about that game, man? And what were some of the aspects of that game that made you stand up as a freshman and do what you did?
You know what? In all honesty, brother, I can't even tell you much about the game. But I can tell you what it felt like going to the game.
Right.
But it was like, when I say football town,
yeah,
crazy just to go in. I don't even think we were near the stadium yet, but just to go through their community in the bus and just seeing all their colors and everybody there yelling at us. I think at one point our bus was probably getting pushed around too, and it was just crazy, man. That energy was very interesting, and also being a young fella to go in there. Like I said, I love to compete, so for me, it was energy for me that they were pouring into. They probably didn't know. You know, some people do those type of things as a scare tactic, but I enjoy fear because it allows me to stand up a little taller and go out and do what I got to do. But just that atmosphere was a dope atmosphere to be in because it was something new to me. That was honestly one of the first times that I've ever even traveled out of California. I mean, mine is Vegas, but that's the same thing. But that was like one of the first times that I ever even traveled out of California. So be out in the South to play football, to be in their background and seeing all of everything that they bring to the table in regards to their fans, and then to be on the same field with folks such as, what's the QB's name? Jason Williams, Cadillac Williams,
Ronnie Brown,
Darnell Williams, all them great dudes, and also hearing all the chatter that they were talking about beforehand. It's like, man, I'm playing with some dogs. Like, I know my squad because I've seen us, and I know that we compete. So I don't think there was ever any doubt in my mind that we would lose the game. And for me, for that game, I just leaned on to my brothers, man. My brothers, they pulled me through that game, you know. So I can't take credit for nothing that I did in that game. It was a group effort, and my brothers pulled me through.
Absolutely. Amen. Absolutely. While we stand on that, because we talk about you as one of the top 5 safeties. Can you talk about this?
USC 66 yards. We have a second down and 7. And it is Brennan's turn. And it's intercepted. Darnell Bing is going to take this one all the way. Touchdown, USC, 66 yards.
What about that one?
You know what? I didn't even know if I was gonna play that game. If you remember, Jaywalk, on the flight to Hawaii, I was sick. I was sick before the game even started. Like I had food poisoning. I don't want to put this on your show, but I was basically in the bathroom the whole time. The whole time we was on the plane, and the whole time we was at the hotel preparing that week. Like I wasn't even sure if I was gonna play. But again, you know, when your brothers pull on you and you pull on your brothers, you capable of doing anything. As Jay Walk mentioned earlier, iron sharpen iron. So, you know, I'm always give credit to my brothers because, you know, they allowed us to be able to do the things that we did. It was for me, I can never say I did that because it's always been a culture, you know. And for that play specifically, you know, I'll share this. I've always been a ball hawk, and the reason why is because my true position in my head has always been running back.
Yep.
So anytime I can get the ball, I'm gonna get the ball.
Absolutely.
So you know, whenever I felt that I was close enough to get the ball, I was gonna get the ball. If I wasn't close enough, I was gonna smack somebody because you got the ball when I should have been getting the ball. My mindset. It was just for me on that play right there, I just read. You know, it was a lot of the stuff that we prepared for in the weeks to come, and I just read the play, was able to jump it, and I always rely on my speed. Ain't nobody gonna catch me, even though I ain't that fast. I know you ain't gonna get me. If I gotta start, you ain't gonna get me. So you know, I read the play, and I enjoyed the 60-yard run to the end zone. That was actually the first touchdown that we had for that year,
for that season.
Wow!
He scored.
Wow!
So I'm gonna double down on that. The play in Auburn, that was Auburn's first possession of the game. Darnell intercepted it his freshman year. That was his first time starting his freshman year. Intercepted it on the opening drive. And then 4 years later, Hawaii intercepted it on their offense's first drive. So for me, those are two of the staple moments in my mind where I go, that's who Darnell Bing is. Darnell Bing he's the fire starter for every season that we were dominant. If you look at every single season, he had a play that sparked the entire season in the opening drive, whether it was a high collision, a forced fumble, those two interceptions, and they look awfully similar to one another. But see, Darnell doesn't have the luxury of watching Darnell play football unless he's studying film. I've had the ability to observe someone that I admire and look up to as a player, as well as considers a peer and a brother, as well as who understands the position better than me. So I'm looking at it from a player's perspective, a fan, somebody who really admires his game, right? Also a teammate and learning the defense, what we're trying to do. And then lastly, I'm a coach before I'm a player. I've always played the game with a coach's mindset. That's probably why I second guessed a lot in my career, because I wanted to know how stuff works so much. Like I try to work things so much to understand it from a coach's perspective. It was tough for me to separate the two. But anyway, seeing it from all those points of views in my perspective, it helped me develop a true admiration, because the same things I love about Troy Polamalu, the same things I love about Tim McDonald, the same things I love about Ronnie Lott are the same things I loved about my teammate Darnell Bing, which is why I say I hold him in that light. And I always called him Starnell. He was a bright spot on the team. Like you could just depend on him. And I'm gonna double down on that if we get into some more highlights, because there's something that he told to me during the most challenging game of my college career, and we'll get there and I'll speak on that.
I got one for you. We're about to look at that real quick. Shout out to Christian. Thank you for the super chat. He says, J-Walk, good to see you, brother. I'm hearing a lot of alums was welcome to the spring around the program. Touched on how this benefits the current program and the impact of the alums. Hey, thank you, Christian, for the super chat. And then there's one more question. Joseph says, did you guys know that Reggie Bush was going to be that great?
Absolutely.
You saw it from the beginning.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me get to this real quick. Here's
high
one.
school football to his sophomore year because it
in the words of Charlie White, but you have to score touchdowns. They've taken over 5 minutes off the clock on this 12-play drive.
USC has more penalty yards than rushing yards.
Quinn sets his feet, wings it to the end zone for Stovall. Jump ball over the head of everyone. I think Stovall misjudged it as well as he came up. And
well, they went right back into the well against John Walker again. That time, good coverage by John Walker, former child actor. Actually didn't play high school football to his sophomore year because in his acting contract he could.
Yeah, can you talk about? Well, Darnell mentioned that it was a team effort. You came in there part of the team, Jay. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So that was the infamous or famous Bush Push game in 2005. That was a big time game against the Fighting Irish. They wore their green jerseys, their uniforms. They grew the grass to like some blades of grass were over 7 inches on the field. They watered down the field the morning of the game, so it was soggy. Like we walked through it the day before, and it was dry. It was dry grass, but it was high, but it was dry. And when we got there, it was soggy and squishy because they watered it down. And then the Fighting Irish players came out with cleats on that was like this long. So they were trying to slow us down. And I'll be honest, it did. We slipped a lot in the beginning of that game. And a lot of guys at the halftime, we changed cleats. We really did. I don't know if you remember that, Darnell. No. But they did everything that they could to slow us down, our team speed. But here's what I'm going to get. So just like Darnell had against Hawaii, he had food poisoning. So did I that Notre Dame game. I had 104-degree temperature that game, and I was really sick. No excuse, but my head was really loopy that game, and I remember I was playing the boundary side the whole game, and they kept running like 3 tight end sets, and they kept running powers and like a lot of physical ball on my side of the field. And then they would run that physical ball, pounding it. I kept having to force and play the edge and, knife the fullback. It was just a physical game personally. And then they would soften me up by throwing these 60-yard deep balls high in the air. And there was 6 times they threw the ball deep on me that game. 2 of them, I think I PI'd, or one or 2, I PI'd the guy. And the other ones, I just was loopy. So by about the 3rd or 4th time they kept trying it, and they had Jeff Samardzija and Maurice Stovall. Both of them were 6'5", about 225 or so, tall, big receivers, right? Similar to Mike Williams types. And so they were throwing these moon balls where the ball would arch really high. So about the 3rd or 4th one, man, I'm starting to like shake my head like, gosh, bro, how many times are they going to do this? Like bombs over Baghdad. Darnell came over to me one play. And I don't know if you remember this, but you was like, Jay, you was like, eyes up. And because I had my head down, like, gosh, man, they keep trying me. And he was like, eyes up. And I looked up, even though I had my visor on, he had his visor on, but I could see his eyes because I just knew him. And he was like, look, he said, just trust your technique, run with him. He says, I got you. I'm coming. I'm on my way. And that's all I needed. He was like, you're not alone. He was like, walk, you're not alone. I'm on my way.
Darnell, you remember that?
Bet.
Man, I'm gonna tell you I don't, man. But I also tell you this too. There have been several things that I've had some of our former teammates come and tell me that I've said. I just don't remember, man. I'm a completely different dude on the field than I am off the field. Like I said, I love to compete. So on the field, I'm ready to compete and knock somebody's head off. Off the field, I'm so laid back and cool, man. Like I'm a completely different dude. So whatever I said on the field, whether it was positive or negative, charged to my desire to compete.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You zone out. You zone out, you get in that zone. But I can definitely appreciate that. Thank you, Bobby. Bobby says, thank you, brothers, for the love for SC and the knowledge of the game. Absolutely. So real quick, getting back to what you were referring to, Pete Carroll days. I think just now this year, I think we're finally starting to find our footing right now, and we got some incredible coaches. Deanton Lynn now is the defensive coordinator. Eric Henderson coming over from the Rams. Got Doug Belt that came from Houston. We got Big Reed. He came from Auburn. He was a big time. Travion Reed. We got so many things that are moving now, and finally we have the number one class, and we haven't seen it like this. I can't even tell you when's the last time. It was in you guys' era that we've seen now. USC is finally starting to get, and we had to hire a general manager, Chad Bowden. We had to start getting all these moving pieces. So to your point, totally different from Pete Carroll days. Like Pete Carroll didn't have to deal with NIL aspect of it. He didn't have to deal with the general manager. We literally had to hire a general manager like the NFL front office, which is it's insane. I never thought we would ever see this in college football. So what do you guys think about the space we're in right now with college football and the new things that they added on to it?
J-Walk, you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
Sure, I'll grab it. Well, you know, there's this saying, different strokes for different folks, you know, and you can't use the same strategies that were successful when the rules were different and the game was different. So you do have to have an innovative, evolutionary style of leadership who can broadcast and project like the new frontiers that the game is exploring. So it does take foresight. It takes some preemptive measures, which I think, in my personal opinion, our university was very slow. I think methodic would be the main thing. Is they were more methodic and a little more tentative about making those aggressive decisions early because things were still in limbo. And so had we not waited until we did, we would not have had the coaching staff available that we've been able to assemble. We would not have been able to have the bumps on the head and the learning lessons to understand exactly how to do it right now. So it's kind of one of those situations where the stove is hot and you just have to touch it a little bit to see how hot it is before you really get burned. And I think that right before we were about to get burned, in my opinion, we were able to like heat check and then put the pieces together. And now we've assembled a team that is very competent and I would almost argue very dominant at what we're able to do, which makes me feel good. So when we were there, we had a guy on the team who did act very much like a GM. He was an athletic administrative director. His name was Mark Jackson, MJ, right? And didn't he fulfill some of the roles and duties that you see these guys doing? It just wasn't called a GM. He was an athletic director of operations and administration for USC football, but he oversaw recruiting, he oversaw marketing, he oversaw academics, he oversaw player relationships, he oversaw uniform and conduct policy, he oversaw all the things that a GM would in the NFL. And he was great. He was great at what he did. And that's why we looked like a professional operation during that time, because we were one. So for people to say, yes, you know, we have the first time GM ever. Yeah, it's official term GM, but we did have a guy who laid a blueprint out way back when we were there, who showed the proper way. And the moment he stepped away from USC, things you could see there was a little bit of a decline. Of course, we were dealing with sanctions, but at the same time, there was no one else that operated like he did.
No doubt. Yeah, Darnell, you had anything you want to say on him?
Not Mark Jackson specifically, but just the whole pay to play, so to speak. You know, my stance is still the same as it was when you had your event that we all went to, J-Walk, out in Orange County. You know, I'm an advocate for players getting paid. I'm just not an advocate for players getting paid in this capacity.
Right.
for me, I would have loved to see the NCAA charge these schools to pay all their players. And I say that because I think about the folks that are on these teams putting in the same work as some of your star players who's bringing in these $1 million contracts, whereas this person over here may be a starter as well, and he probably only got a $20,000, whatever, and I can see from my viewpoint in working with young adults where I work at now, it's like, okay, if I can see that there's a slight shift and change when this person get a little check, I can only imagine how it will be when folks are getting $1 million and then compared to another person that's doing the same work that's only getting pennies to that. Like, how do you all remain on one accord and still try to fight and go out and accomplish the mission for the team? I personally feel like it's hard for people to stay intact and to be in unison, to be able to, go out there and fight together without there being any animosity towards one another, whether it's verbal or something that you're hiding within. I will always feel that the NCAA thought they got away with something by allowing the NILs. But I think again, this is just me, I think it's going to shift college sports.
Yeah.
In the next 5 years or so, to where there will probably be a drastic change. And I can be overshooting it. This is just my thoughts. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
So it's more leaning toward pro amateur.
I think you're absolutely right. We guys are not even considering the majors anymore, or considering what they're majoring in and staying focused on. Like after 1 year, they bouncing and not even. It's so many things like you alluded to, relationships that are established. Everybody has different technique, coaching wise, that they teach, and so you go from one technique being taught to another, not even really being stable. So really, you're really not. I think we're seeing underdeveloped guys as well now that's getting ready to go to the NFL because they've only been under somebody's leadership for like maybe 1 year, half a year for that matter. Once they see somebody inbox them and say, look, we want to give you a bag, it's time to bounce. And so it's like, what we doing here? And so I think we're going to see a bunch of underdeveloped guys, which is going to be a less effective NFL product, probably, I would say. So I think all these things are going to trickle down, man. It's a snowball effect. But one thing I did hear Lincoln Riley say yesterday in the press conference, and he alluded to it, he was extremely happy. He said this team is together. And when he said that lets me know, because we only had a few guys hit the portal, 5 guys, which is nothing. I think we had like 20 some last year, this spring portal. So I think now we got a team that we can really see a product on the field that's going to be a lot more effective, a lot more, to your point, unison. And I think it's going to be go time, man. Jay, you got anything you want to say?
Man, I 100% agree. So this relates to me in Isaac Newton's 3 primary laws. And for what I mean is, so what goes up must come down, right? So if the emotions are high in the college game and NIL, like there was an overcorrection of paying players to get them, that has to come down. It has to come down to a place of homeostasis where it's level. So with the new collective bargaining agreements and some of the new there's rules that are being put into place right now, and they're creating entities to enforce those rules, right? And to oversee how the NCAA allows these funds to matriculate into universities. So what goes up must come down, right? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be a massive course correction because the NFL might put their foot down on athletes being emotionally unstable, not physically prepared, untrained, and not developed. And there might be a course correction there because it's like, we don't want that product. It's watered down. It's watering down the game as a whole because none of these athletes have gone through enough growing pains to have the fortitude to do what we need them to do at this level, right? Because this is big business. So what goes up must come down. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And then once things get rolling, like Sir Isaac Newton said, an object in motion will stay in motion unless an outside force interferes with it. That's kind of how I feel about what is going to happen, especially with USC. We're getting this momentum, like we had momentum when we were there, and then some outside force deviated that momentum and moved it off the course. And we're now getting back to a course correct. And we as a program are gaining that motion again, and we won't be stopped for a long time. And I think it's off the shoulders of going through all of the sanctions, all of the violations, learning how to get, the small reprimands, the small levels of discipline to teach us how to actually build it for the long game. And so as a Trojan family, as long as we can stay connected to the process and recognize, like I like to say, this is not a microwave meal. This is not a hungry man meal. It's not a hot pocket. We cook in a 5-course cuisine right here, right? 5-star USDA prime beef. So let's let it simmer. Let's let it simmer so it can taste like we want it to when it's all done. Just be patient, fellas. World at large.
In addition to that, I think someone told me that we are back to recruiting some of our backyard babies too.
That's bingo,
and
checkmate.
That is so important, man. That is so important because with that you get, not only do you get some ballers, but you get people that they home and they love the fact that they are able to be home and wear that cardinal and gold and have their family there at every home game. It's just something completely different when you bring a lot of, and I ain't got nothing against folks coming from other places, but it's just something different when you have your backyard babies.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
No,
the difference between like this, I can't even, my dang background don't even let me show the fight on sign. That's crazy. the difference between this and this is a small degree of separation.
Yeah.
So this V for victory this is a homegrown product for the most part. When you look at the blueprint for all successful USC teams, almost 90% of the roster were California kids, and about 70% of them were Southern California kids who grew up loving the local legacy and wanting to leave their thumbprint on that legacy. And so that is the blueprint for success, no matter who. John McKay, Mark, like all of them. Yeah, I could just go on. Pete Carroll, I could just name the great J-Rob, all of them. That's the recipe, and we have no evidence to dispute that.
Yeah,
man, absolutely, and that's why I salute big time the new general manager Chad Bowden. One of his initiatives was like, we're gonna focus on Southern California, California as a whole, and we hadn't really seen that. And Jay, you remember we did shows like they need to get somebody on staff that really understands it. Coincidentally, he comes now as a general manager, and you know what he says? I grew up seeing Reggie Bush. I grew up seeing Darnell Bing. I grew up seeing all of these guys. And the fact that he understands that and understands the concept of recruiting California, I think that alone is I think we getting ready to take off like a rocket, man, big time.
Sincerely.
So look, fellas, look, man, this is Darnell. You got to come back during the season, man. you gotta come up back during the season, man. This was good. Didn't want to hold you guys, but if you could leave anything with us, Darnell, and you as well, J-Boy, but I know you're coming back. But Darnell, anything you want to leave with the Trojan family, man? The current state of the program, everything that you've seen, everything we heard today, and then the path, how you guys established yourself. What did you want to leave with us?
And you want me to leave something for the current players or just USC in general?
Both.
Okay. So I will say this to the current players. It is an honor and a privilege to wear that cardinal and gold. So when you wear it, make sure that you're passionate about it. Make sure that you are dedicated to it. Make sure that you are committed to the family and the culture that comes with wearing the cardinal and gold, because it's not just a me thing, it's a us thing. So stay firm and stay committed to the cardinal and gold, because there are many, many blessings that come with being dedicated and staying committed to it. It's not just a noun thing, it's a noun for everything. So continue to be committed to that cardinal and gold. And what I would say to the folks that are in here watching now and just to the USC community as a whole, continue on showing love and support to your USC family. Continue on being, just continue showing love and support, man, because, you know, I can only think about my own journey, right, as an SC ball player and as an individual that transitioned from, going from SC, going to the pros, and then transitioning out of the pros. You know, one of the things I have always done was relied on my family, and that's my USC family. Whether it's the guys that I played ball with or the folks that I was in class with or the alumni, they have totally 1,000% been my backbone in every transition that I have made that have allowed me to be here and be present and be happy in what I'm doing today. So continue on doing what you all are doing, USC family, because it is very, very much appreciated.
Amen. Let the church say amen.
Yeah.
J-Walk, real quick, and I'm gonna merge Keith in here real quick. Keith, if you're watching, I'm sending you the link. He wanted to holler real quick before we get out of here. I sent the link to you just now, Keith. J-Walk, anything you want to say before we get out?
I definitely want to double down on what Darnell said in terms of, you know, you younger generation who are currently playing, you don't understand the level of emotional and spiritual and cultural support that you get when you stay connected to this university. And we adore you, man. We love you. We've been in the cleats that you're wearing. Maybe not to the capacity by which you guys are dealing with things. Like, we didn't have the level of social media exposure you do currently, but we had news outlets and TMZ and all sorts of other things that were similar relative to our generation. But what I will say is, you will never have a family like the Trojan family. There will never be people who are willing to stretch themselves to make sure that you're okay. And we all have a group thread with, Darnell, how many of us is on that text thread, would you say? 25 something, 30 guys who we all stay connected, not just from the championship teams, but guys that were on the roster in 99 are on that text thread, and we all stay connected, making sure we're okay, making sure each other's families are okay, making sure we hold each other down and we exchange resources. It's the Trojan way. And like Darnell said, the cardinal and gold represents something. The cardinal represents the bloodshed on the field together. It's the blood bond that we have. It's the brotherhood. That's what cardinal is. It's the color of that comes out of you. But it also shows no weakness when we're on the battlefield. If we ever get hurt, our opponent will never know that we're bleeding. That's what that cardinal represents. We don't show pain. We don't show weakness. We don't surrender. We don't back down. We don't submit. We don't retreat. We don't subdue. We don't yield. We don't fold. And the gold, well, that's what we all are striving for, isn't it? The championships, the relationships, the opportunity. That's what cardinal and gold is. Remember that. And there's a reason why those colors mean something and why we stand by them.
Yeah.
Right on.
Amen. Man, I definitely appreciate that. Keith, what's the word? Look, for those who don't know, Keith played linebacker at USC 1984. I got it right, Keith. Don't get on me, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start posting that next to my name so you know they can. What's going on, fellas? Good to see you, little brothers. How y'all doing, man?
Good to see you, KB.
Yes, how you doing?
I'm all right, man. Hey, Jay, let me tell you something. When I met Darnell Bing was in the Coliseum, I walked past him. I said, "When did you play?" He goes, "Oh, back in the years he played." I said, "Your name?" He goes, "Darnell Bing." And I look up and I'm like, Jesus Christ! You went crazy! God! Where were you when I played?
Whoa.
Hey, Keith.
Oh my gosh. Hey, it was a pleasure meeting you, man. And I would just want to say, man, I really enjoyed watching you play, man. And the biggest game for me was when you played against Auburn.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you made your debut. But I really enjoyed you shutting out your boy Deshaun Jackson and Cal. All the time you got to play Cal, I loved every minute of it.
It was
yeah. You guys were just
game.
drawing back and
All
forth,
game.
and I loved it. I loved it.
That's
you know,
good.
because it was personal for me, because when I watched him make his commitment, he put on the Trojan hat and his face changed and threw it on the ground. And I said, that's the ultimate disrespect on national TV to my school. And I hope he never scores. And lo and behold, I heard a rumor that you said as long as he's playing for Cal, he will never score a touchdown. And you picked the ball off in the end zone when he thought he had 6. And that was thank you.
Yeah, that's always
I
gonna be
never had a dislike for Cal until he got there.
Yeah.
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 So that was it for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, that's my little brother, man. But you know, as I shared earlier, I'm a competitor. I love to compete, and because of the fact that I was tasked with talking to him to try to get him to SC, and we had our conversations, and he had his feelings about SC, and for me, I'm not a salesman. I'm gonna give you the game and the information, and you take it and run with it and do what you do with it. I can't keep chasing. I can't keep chasing you if you don't have the desire to be part of the things that we have to offer as a community. So, he had his desire to go to Cal, and it was what it was.
Yeah. I was sad about him, and I was upset rather about him and Mercedes. Yeah, I thought both of those guys were supposed to stay home. That was my opinion, but I'm glad we got to play against them.
Yeah. Now
I thought Mercedes was going to be a Trojan too.
There was never anything in my mind that made me believe that Mercedes was going to be a Trojan.
Me neither. Yeah,
I think he always had his mind made up, and the fact that he wanted to be a Bruin.
Yep.
And like I said, and if you want to go back to me holding somewhat of a grudge against my brothers that went to Poly that didn't go to SC, you can go back and look at some of the UCF tape when I was, doing what I had to do against my brother Mercedes. But it's all out of love.
It's all out of love, brother. It's all out of. And those are both legends. Those are Jackrabbit, Long Beach Poly Jackrabbits. They're legends in high school. They're legends in college, and they're legends in the pros. And they both went to very respectable rivals, but we still call them family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All Cali kids.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to hold you guys up, man. I just wanted to highlight you guys. I'm my little brothers, and I follow my footprints, and we share the same bond. We don't go backwards. We're Trojans. We fight on.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Absolutely. Keith, I appreciate you. We about to get out of here anyway, man.
We out.
But hey, look, Trojan family, we appreciate everybody for coming in. We got 300-some people on right now. Listen, you guys know we will continue to bring you the news, any breaking news. But look, we appreciate everybody that came on. A special thanks to Darnell, Keith, and Jaywalk. I consider them regulars on here, right? Honestly, regulars. And we definitely appreciate you guys for coming back in. So look, man, until later on, listen, everybody stay blessed. We are out of here. Fight on, fight on, fight on.
Fight on.
Fight on, Trojan fan. Appreciate